In the Sultan's harem, beauty was a blessing and a curse. Every night, one woman was chosen to share his bed, and by dawn, some were never seen again. The palace of Topkapi stood like a golden dream above Istanbul's sea, a fortress of beauty and silence. They called her Layla now. Her real name, the one whispered by her mother on stormy nights, had been erased the moment she was taken from her home along the Black Sea coast. The journey to Istanbul had been long and silent. When the ship's sails finally caught the wind that carried her toward the empire's beating heart, she realized there was no turning back. She was property now, a gift, a tribute, a face among hundreds destined for the Sultan's harem. The gates of Topkapi Palace loomed like the mouth of some great beast. Beyond them, the world shimmered with gold and perfume. Yet Layla could sense something hidden beneath that beauty, a quiet dread that hung in the air like incense too long burned. She was led through corridors of marble and silk, where women glided like ghosts in jeweled gowns. Their faces were painted in calm perfection, but their eyes told a different story, one of fear, longing, and survival. No one spoke to her, but every gaze carried a warning. Inside her new chamber, she found 4 other girls. Each was from a different corner of the empire. One from Greece, another from Circassia, one dark-eyed girl from Persia. They whispered to each other in fragments of broken languages, but when the eunuchs passed by, all talk stopped. In the harem, even whispers had ears. Layla soon learned the rhythm of her new life. At dawn, the bells rang and lessons began. She was taught to walk like water, to smile with her eyes but not her mouth, to bow just deep enough to show humility without appearing weak. Every motion was rehearsed, every breath measured. She learned how to dance, to play the lute, to pour wine without spilling a drop. But no one taught her the one thing she truly wished to know. What happened to the girls who were chosen? Once, she asked quietly, "Where is Esme, the one who used to sleep in this bed?" The Persian girl turned her face away. "Don't ask," she whispered. "She was called to the Sultan's chamber last month. She never came back." That night, Layla lay awake, staring at the flickering shadows on the ceiling, her heart trembling. And somewhere in the distance, a door closed softly, like the palace itself was swallowing another secret whole. Days turned into weeks, and Layla began to understand that the harem was not a home. It was a stage. Every smile, every movement, every word spoken was a performance watched by unseen eyes. From dawn until sunset, the women were trained to perfection. They were not taught freedom. They were taught obedience shaped into grace. Mistress Halime, the overseer of the harem, ruled the training halls with a voice as sharp as a blade. Draped in black silk, her presence silenced even the boldest whispers. She taught the girls that beauty was not a gift, but a weapon, and the first to misuse it would be destroyed by it. "You are here," she said one morning, "to please a man who commands the world. To survive, you must learn not to feel, only to appear." Under her watchful eyes, the girls practiced for hours how to dance slowly, gracefully, as if floating, how to bow with respect, yet hide defiance behind their lashes, how to smile when their hearts ached. Every failure was met not with punishment, but with silence. And that silence was far worse. When night fell, the harem transformed. The soft flicker of oil lamps cast long shadows over the walls, painted with stories of past sultanas, women who had once held power, and others who had simply vanished. Sometimes, the older servants whispered their names, like ghosts refusing to rest. In these quiet hours, Layla's only comfort came from her new friend, Aylin. a girl barely 16. Aylin had been there long enough to know the truth that no one dared to speak aloud. "We are all waiting," she told Layla in a hushed voice, "waiting for the night when we are chosen. And when that night comes, our lives change forever, sometimes for glory, sometimes for death." Layla tried to smile, but her stomach twisted with dread. The Sultan was a mystery, unseen, unpredictable. Some said he was kind. Others said his temper was cursed. But all agreed on one thing. Those who disappointed him disappeared. Late one night, Layla awoke to soft footsteps and saw Mistress Halime speaking with a eunuch outside the door. The eunuch carried a folded white veil in his hands. Aylin gasped. "The veil," she whispered. "Someone has been chosen tonight." And though neither spoke it aloud, both prayed that it would not be Layla. It was deep past midnight when Layla awoke to the sound of the door creaking open. The air in the harem was still, heavy with the scent of jasmine and candle wax. A tall eunuch stood in the doorway, his face hidden behind a silk veil. In his gloved hands he held the white veil, the veil every woman feared, the veil that meant one thing: "You have been chosen." He did not speak her name. He didn't need to. His gaze fell on Layla, and her heart stopped. Aylin covered her mouth, stifling a sob. "No," she whispered. "Please, not her." But fate had spoken. Two attendants entered, bowing deeply before the eunuch. They led Layla away in silence, their hands firm on her arms. Her knees felt weak, her mind numb, her breath shallow. The palace, once alive with chatter and perfume, now seemed to whisper her name like a curse. They brought her to the bath of purity, a chamber glowing with golden light and steam. There she was stripped of her garments and lowered into warm water scented with rose petals. The attendants washed her skin, brushed her hair, and perfumed her body until she smelled of lilies and fear. No one spoke. No one dared. When she emerged, they clothed her in a gown of crimson silk, its fabric so thin it shimmered with every heartbeat. Her hands trembled as they placed the white veil over her head. "You must not speak unless spoken to," one attendant whispered, her voice shaking. "If he asks your name, say Layla. Nothing more." Then came the walk. Through endless corridors of gold and shadow, her bare feet echoing softly against marble floors. Each step took her further from the world she had known, and deeper into the unseen darkness of the Sultan's heart. At last, they stopped before a towering ebony door, engraved with verses from the Quran. Two guards stood motionless on either side, their eyes cold and distant. The eunuch knocked once, then twice. The door opened slowly with a sound like thunder rolling across stone. Inside, hundreds of candles flickered. The air was warm, heavy with musk and mystery, and on a low couch, half shrouded in shadow, sat the Sultan. His gaze met hers, sharp, unreadable, ancient. "Come closer," he said softly. "Let me see the girl they call Layla." The great doors closed behind her with a heavy thud that seemed to echo forever. Layla stood frozen, surrounded by hundreds of flickering candles that painted the marble walls with trembling gold. At the center of the chamber sat the Sultan, Murad Khan, ruler of an empire stretching across 3 continents. Yet in this room he was not a king. He was a shadow draped in silk, his face half hidden behind the soft glow of the flames. He studied her in silence. Every second felt like an eternity. Layla's legs threatened to give way, but she forced herself to bow. "Rise," he said at last. "Let me see you." His voice was calm, deep, and strangely tired. She lifted her gaze, only slightly, just enough to see his eyes. They were dark, ancient, and filled with something she could not name. Not anger, not desire, but sorrow. "You are trembling," he murmured. "Are you afraid?" "Yes, my Sultan," she whispered. "Everyone says the first night is one to fear." A faint smile touched his lips. "They are right to fear it." The air seemed to shift. The candles flickered violently, as though the room itself recoiled from his words. Somewhere in the shadows, Layla thought she heard a whisper, soft, distant, like a sigh trapped in the walls. The Sultan poured 2 cups of dark wine and motioned for her to come closer. She obeyed, each step slow and uncertain. He handed her a cup. His hand brushed hers, cold as marble. "Do you know," he said quietly, "how many have stood where you stand now?" Layla shook her head. "Too many," he said, "and most of them are gone." Her throat tightened. "Gone, my lord?" He looked away, toward the flickering shadows. "The harem remembers everything, Layla. The walls, the curtains, even the air. They carry the voices of those who came before you." The room grew colder. The shadows deepened, and as she stood there, clutching the cup, she saw them. Faint outlines of women behind the curtains. Dozens of them, their faces pale and eyes hollow, whispering in unison, "Do not stay. Do not become one of us." The Sultan's gaze returned to her. "Now you understand," he said softly, "why they fear their first night." The candles burned lower, and the chamber seemed to close in on itself, the air thick with smoke and whispers. Layla stood motionless, her pulse echoing in her ears. The Sultan's gaze lingered on her, unreadable, almost sorrowful. He poured more wine, but did not drink. "Do you believe in curses, Layla?" he asked quietly. The question caught her off guard. I have heard of them, my Sultan, but I do not know if they are real." A bitter smile touched his lips. "Then you will learn tonight that they are." He leaned back, his eyes distant, his voice low and heavy. "My family's curse began long before I was born. Centuries ago, an ancestor, Sultan Bayezid, took a woman from a village in the mountains. She was said to be a healer, perhaps even a witch. When he tired of her, he cast her aside. But before she died, she swore that no sultan of her blood would ever know peace in love. She said, 'Every woman you desire shall become your punishment.'" Layla felt a chill run through her body. The Sultan continued, almost whispering now, "And so it has been. Every ruler since him has been haunted. The women we bring into these walls, they are drawn by beauty and power, but what awaits them is torment. Some vanish, others lose their minds, and yet the harem never empties." He looked at her suddenly, his expression sharp. "Do you see now why they fear their first night?" Layla's voice trembled. "Then why bring us here, my lord, if you know the curse is real?" He sighed deeply, his eyes darkening. "Because the empire must continue. The curse does not care for bloodlines or crowns." A strange stillness fell over the room. The air grew colder. The curtains began to move, though there was no wind. Then came the whispers again, louder this time. Dozens of voices overlapping, pleading, warning, weeping. Layla clutched her chest. "My Sultan!" The voices, "Do not look at them," he said sharply. "They will follow you if you do." But it was too late. From the corner of her eye, she saw pale figures forming in the candlelight. Women with hollow eyes and open mouths, reaching toward her. "He cannot save you," they hissed. None of us were saved. The candles went out all at once, and in the darkness, the curse awakened. Dawn crept slowly over Istanbul, painting the domes of Topkapi Palace in pale gold. The city outside stirred with life. Merchants opening their stalls, muezzins calling the faithful to prayer. But inside the palace, the harem was silent. Too silent. The attendants who entered at sunrise spoke in hushed tones, afraid to disturb the still air. The candles in the Sultan's chamber had burned to their bases. The scent of smoke and rose petals hung thick like fog. And the Sultan had not emerged. When the chief eunuch finally opened the great ebony doors, what he found would haunt the palace forever. The Sultan sat slumped on his couch, his eyes open, his expression distant. as if he had seen something beyond this world. His wine cup lay shattered at his feet, crimson stains spreading like blood across the marble floor. But of Layla, there was no sign. Her crimson gown lay neatly folded on the couch beside him. Her white veil drifted on the floor, torn and damp. No one spoke. No one dared to ask what had happened. Rumors spread like wildfire through the harem. Some said the Sultan had fallen under the same curse that haunted his ancestors, that he had seen the ghostly women of the harem and gone mad before sunrise. Others whispered that Layla had become one of them, swallowed by the shadows that whispered in the palace walls. By midday, the Sultan ordered the entire chamber sealed. No servant entered again, and every woman who had seen the veil that night was sent away to the old palace, the place where forgotten concubines spent their remaining years in silence. For days afterward, the Sultan walked the gardens alone, muttering Layla's name. The courtiers avoided his gaze, afraid to meet the eyes of a man who seemed both ruler and ghost. And sometimes, when the wind passed through the harem corridors at night, the servants claimed they heard it, the faint sound of a girl's voice singing in the dark, her melody sad and sweet. They said her spirit wandered the palace still, searching for freedom she would never find. Aylin swore she saw her once, standing by the reflecting pool, barefoot, her red gown trailing behind her, eyes like hollow moons. And when she turned to speak, Layla whispered, "Tell them to fear the first night, for it never ends." The Sultan's harem held power, beauty, and desire, but behind its golden doors lived a curse that no one could escape. If you want more true tales from history's darkest corners, subscribe and stay with me for the next haunting story. Truehorror,